Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today, inshallah, I will explain an introduction about app design and development in Unity. Uh, Unity as a software we use to develop any interactive content, and that development could be in the field of game, ER, VR, and also web application, mobile application, and applications in general. Could be desktop applications also. We use Unity because Unity is a cross-platform, which means that the same development we did with a minor changes, we can export it or publish it to a variety of platforms. Because of that, it is better to use the Unity for development. And today, inshallah, I will start with an introduction about Unity, about C# and scripting. C#, by the way, is the programming language that usually we use when we work with Unity. Let us start on how to install the Unity and the Visual Studio. The Visual Studio is the software that we use for coding, for writing the codes. First of all, you need to go online and search for something called Unity Hub. If you have a Windows, then you can click at Windows and install the setup. If you have Mac, then you can click here below. Then you need to install the Unity Hub. Of course, it is very important to create an account on Unity and also in Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, also you need to search for Visual Studio. You need to download the community version, which is free. You just need to create an account and it will be licensed. If you have Mac, you can install Visual Studio Code. Once you install both of them and create an account and sign into your accounts in both Visual Studio and Unity, you can proceed working on installing the cores that you are going to need. Once you install the Unity Hub, this user interface will appear to you once you click on it. Inside the installs, you need to download at least one editor. Once the editor is finished, then you can start working. Also, for the Visual Studio, you need to make sure that you are already signed in. After that, you can go to Projects and click on New Projects. And you can click on Core from here, select 2D. And from here, you need to name your project. For example, first app. There's something important to mention here in Unity. When we talk about the projects, we are not talking about a single file. Here in Unity, the projects are folders. So if you want to move them, if you want to copy them, you need to copy the whole folder, not just one icon. So the use of Unity Hub, we use to select the platform that you want to develop for. For example, we have 2D, 3D, high definition 3D, which is for a complex game. We have 3D mobile, AR, and VR, and some extra options. If you want to create a project, you can click here to create a project. If you want to add a project, you have a chance at the beginning when you click on Unity to click on Add and then select the project folder and it will be added. After that, you can click on it to start your project in another device. Now the Unity will start. For the first time, it take few time to open for both the Unity engine and also the Visual Studio. Unity engine in general is one of the most popular engines that developers used in the field of games and VR and AR because it have a very complex techniques, physical techniques that we can use to develop high professional games. Also, it could be used easily and professionally in the field of mobile apps or in the field of app development, because we can combine both visually attractive, interesting, and professional elements with the also high professional development. Okay, this is the user interface for Unity. In Unity, we work with many menus available here inside Unity. For example, here at the left, we have the hierarchy. Anything you add to this scene or page, you will find it here, any object. In Unity, we call them objects. Down here, we have something called the assets. Assets belongs to the whole project folder. Also, here we can find the packages, the assets that we can install and use in Unity. Here we have something called console. Console we use for printing messages from the codes for testing, or we can see any error if we have any error in the coding or programming part. We can find the errors here. Here at the top, we have scene to see the page during the development and during the preparing the designs, the elements, the visual elements. Animator we use for animation. And also we have the game. The game is the screen we use for testing what we developed, and also for testing if we have any physical components to see how the elements will appear inside the screen. Once we export the work, we can use the game. Here at the right, we have something called the inspector. Inspector, it is like the properties. Inside it, we can find the basic components like the transform, moving the objects, changing the objects parameters like position, rotation, and scale. We can change the position of an object. We can change the rotation or the scale. And we have some extra components. It depends on the type of the object. And not only that, we can add an extra component. As you see, we have plenty of components that we can add to the objects we create, because it is a complex program, complex software with so many things that we can do by using this software. This is in general. Also, if we have any problem with the arrangement of the layout of the user interface, we can click here and then go and reset all layouts to adjust the organization of these elements of these windows inside the user interface. Let us start by creating some objects. If I want to create an object, one of the way to create an object by going to GameObject. GameObject is the main menu. Usually we use to create an object. Components, we use to add the components to the objects we create. And also we have the assets, we have the edit for cutting, copying, pasting, among of other things. And we have the file like any other software. For GameObject, we have an option to create a 2D objects, to create a 3D objects, also effects like the particles, or we can add some other from the asset store. We have also light options in 2D and 3D. We have an option for audio and video files we will explain later. And also we have the UI, the user interface, the interactive elements, we can add them from here, among of other things. Let us start with the first one, 2D objects. I'm going to go inside the sprites, and then I have the basic shapes that usually we have inside softwares. For example, I have square. I can create a square. In order to control the square, I have many options. From here, I have the component or the tools that usually we use for controlling an object. In Unity, we have three options to control an object or to adjust an object. The first one is by using the transform window from inside the inspector. The second one by using these tools. We have for changing the position, rotate tool, scale tool, and the rectangle tool. Also, we can use the shortcuts in keyboard, W for position, E for rotation, and R for scale. Or we can use the rectangle. Here inside the scene, we can zoom in and zoom out by using the mouse wheel, or we can click on Alt on keyboard with the right mouse key to zoom in and out. Mouse wheel click to move the scene, or with Alt also, mouse wheel click with Alt to move the scene. We use these for navigate or move inside the scene. Now I can click here, click on it and move it. I can change the scale from here, or I can use the W to change the position. I can move it in X-axis, in Y-axis, or in both by clicking at this square. I have the rotation. I can rotate it freely, like what you see, or I can click at these lines to rotate it around one axis. I have the scale also. I can scale it in X-axis and Y-axis, and or I can scale it in both dimension. In 3D, we have the third dimension, of course. Here from the inspector, I can change the color if I want. These are the simple controllers. I can create another objects. For example, triangle. Any object I create, I will find it here. As I said, we can add an extra component to these objects. Let me just show you an example. For the triangle, I can add, for example, something related to physics 2D. I can add a collider. Like polygon collider. Collider means that this object will be physically exist in the virtual world. For this one, this square, I am going to add a box collider to make it exist in the virtual world. Also, I will give it some physical material, physics 2D, like the rigid body to add it some to make it have something like gravity among of other things. Now, if I click on play, because this have gravity, it will fall down, and it will be a collision between these objects because this one has a collider. This is just to show you how we can add a component. That's in general about the user interface. Here from the assets, we can import any file we want for if it's designs and illustrators and animation, 3D objects, audio, video files, we can drag them and add them here, or we can click on write and import. Now I'm going to use the assets window to create a new script file. You need to click on write, then create, then you need to go to scripting. Usually we select the first one, the mono behavior script. Mono editor, before we were use it with the Unity, but now we just create, they change it to a library. Now we just use the Visual Studio to writing the scripts. Let me name it also first app. Now, for the name of the script, it's better to not put a spaces inside it. Also to start with the letters. And it's better to not use symbols in the name of the scripts. If you want to open it, you just need to double click on it, and then the Visual Studio window will be open. Here we have the script page that we can use to write our scripts. Just to give you a brief explanation about what is available here, using something that means calling a certain libraries to execute the code based on them. To make the system able to understand the code, we call a certain libraries. The most common one is the Unity engine. Usually we put it at the top of every script here in Unity. And then we have the class. The class, it's like a big container that contain a certain codes. Usually, if we want to call these codes from another script file, we need to call the name of the script. And as you see, the name of the class is the same the name as the name of the script file. So you need to focus on that. If you change the name of the script, you must name the change of the class from here. Here inside these two curly brackets, usually we write the code, except the libraries. If we want to call a library, we call it here. There are some symbols. We use them widely, and it's very important to know them. For example, this we call column. This is a curly bracket. We also deal with the round bracket. As you see, we have a square bracket. We have the dot, the comma, the semicolon. Also, the semicolon is very important. We have the quotation and also the double quotation. We use them widely. And we have the mathematical operations, the plus and minus, division multiplied by, which is the star, and the slash. All of these things we used also widely. And also for comments, for making a comments, we use two backslashes. Comments mean that this is just for clarification, that anything after it will not be executed. If I want to make a comment on more than one line, then I need to use the slash with star. At the end of the comment, I need to write star and slash. In that way, I can change everything between them to a comment. And now I can write a code. Here inside the class, I can define a variable, or one of the things that I can do, I can define a variables. Variables, it's like a small container that contain only a single type of data. We have plenty types of variables, and also we have the functions, we have the statements, many things that we will explain during this course. But now, just for testing, let us try to write something simple. Because I called the library, everything will appear to me as a suggestion that I can use. For example, here I can write Debug.Log just for test printing. I can open a parentheses or round brackets, inside them double quotation, two double quotation, and then hello. At the end, at the end of any code line, I need to write, most of them, I need to write a semicolon. Here I have a function called start and a function called update. And start means that the code will be executed for once we hit on a play for one time. Update, that mean will the script, anything I add here, it will be executed. The execution will be repeated all the time I'm playing or testing or running the application. The codes here will keep repeating, and here for a single time. Now let me click on save just for testing. If I click on a play, nothing is going to happen, because having the code here doesn't mean that these codes will be executed, because we can work with many pages or scenes. So I need to connect the script with one of the objects I have to be able to execute the script. Once you add it to a certain object, you will find it, inside the inspector as a component. And now you can click on play to see the execution. What I use now is a debug.log. We use the debug.log to show a message in the console. As you see, we have it here. Because I used to start, the code will be executed for one time. Now, if I put it here, and if I change this for comment, I don't want it to be executed, only the second one, it will be executed. The execution will be repeated. As you see, the message will keep showing all the time I'm hitting on play or testing or running the application. Because of that, it depends on the system. If we want to check a thing all the time, then we use the update function. If we want to execute a certain thing for one time or a single time, we use the start function. What is the functions and variables and more about the codes I will explain in next class, inshallah. That's it for today, and thank you, and see you in next class.